Thank you for tuning in. My name is Juan Cephas from Fit PD, and this is Lineup with Fit PD. I I was a supervisor with San Diego Police Department, and I spent almost 30 years being a cop. I also been teaching cops for over 23 years. And in all those experiences, I've met some amazing, amazing people. One of those people is here today with us, and that's Lori Luhnow, or I should say, former Chief Lori Luhnow. Um, Chief, thank you for being here. I know you were uh, in the chief's office with San Diego PD. You were in Santa Barbara as the chief, collegiate athlete, and just healthy, healthy all the time that I've known you. Look at you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Well, that's the thing. When you increase in age, you think you're fit. You think you've been doing all the right things, but layered on top of a policing career, you recognize how you could have done things differently. And that pretty much has shaped my vision and where I am with wellness today.
Well, you know what? You're jumping right into it because that's exactly what we want to talk about. We want to talk about from our experiences, how can we help other cops, especially brand new cops, figure it out earlier than we did and have a better, long-lasting career, because this career will wear you out.
It will. And we don't think about the fact there's all these things that are covered in the labor code through workers' comp injuries. That's a bunch of experts and the state, basically legislators, that accept the fact that this profession's going to break us. But the thing that I've finally realized is, what are we doing to change those things? Now PTSD is covered. We know back injuries, heart injuries. But what do we do as organizations to mitigate those circumstances when we know it's likely that we're going to break?
And there are things, you're saying there are things that we can do?
I believe so, of course.
All right, all right. Well, you know what? Let's step back just for a little bit because I would love to know what wellness was like back when you first came on.
It was definitely one of those things. We had our psychological services. When there was a significant critical incident, the sergeant would put the number on the wall and say something to the effect, for those of you that are wussies, he might not use that term, that need some help, there's the number on the wall. So it wasn't one of those accepted practices. The culture was not a safe environment for help seeking.
Wow. That brings me back to some of the lineups and some of the characters in those lineups, supervisors.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're, for the times, it worked, but things have changed now. Do you recall any incidents back then where maybe not just yourself, but others maybe had to suck it up and just not call that number on the blackboard?
Definitely. I remember one of the first critical incidents that really resonated and is in my memory. It was an officer-involved shooting where one of our officers was shot, and I was there, one of the first people at the scene, rode in the ambulance with her to the hospital, had blood on me and whatnot. And, I got that supervisor back at the station is like, oh, clean yourself up. You look a mess. And it wasn't an acknowledgement of maybe where I was being a new officer. And on top of that, there was that layer of me being a female officer, which at the time we maybe had 10% women. So, I was trying to be accepted in this profession. And so much of me being an athlete was about sucking things up and getting through them. So the two together probably set me up on this course of, I'll get through it and I'll find a way to do it on my own. So I wasn't as open as I probably could have been and should have been at the time to get some help.
So when the supervisor tells you, hey, get cleaned up, does that mean get cleaned up physically and go ahead and go home, take some time off? Or what exactly does it mean back in that time?
It was change your uniform and get back to work.
Those calls
The
are
calls are
holding.
holding.
Of course, of
Right.
course. So many things that we have learned now when we're talking about officer-involved shootings. It's not just the officer that's involved in the shooting, whether the officer gets shot or they shoot someone, but it's also everybody else that responds and even is working that doesn't
Right.
respond.
Right.
And back then, how do we deal with those folks, the ones that don't even respond, or just kind of like yourself, that you went in, did a task at the scene?
Yeah, I don't think we recognize the magnitude of vicarious trauma. And you probably remember officer involved shooting or debriefs for that matter, even if it wasn't an OIS. It was very selective. The sergeant would identify who they thought needed to go, and that was not based on who felt they needed the help. It was just who they thought was close to the incident.
Right.
Which is way different than how we do it now. Now we have officers that self-identify and confidently come forward and say, this really bothered me. I need some time or I need some help.
Now, I mean, it takes a long time to change that culture, because back in the day, you didn't have time to cry. You didn't have time to show emotion. You were expected just to perform.
Right.
And I'm not saying people are crying today. I don't know what everybody does. Everybody reacts differently. However, people are allowed to react, to have emotions, to express their emotions. Is that correct?
I believe so. I think definitely the newer generations in the profession are more open to share and confident in that. And for the most part, there's been a big shift in leadership where it's more accepted. So we talk about culture, but I think it's more defined as a culture of wellness. So we have all these other cultures within our organization, but really, what is your agency's wellness culture, and how is your agency supporting it? And especially being a supervisor, I mean, one of the most critical points is how your supervisor is reinforcing it with these folks that we just got out of training.
Right.
They're learning about wellness and needs in the academy. Then we need to support it like any skill or thing that we do try to implement. But then it's that whole chain of command, and how's management, how's leadership also reinforcing that messaging and the resources to be effective.
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's so important that everybody in the chain of command supports it, because if there's one kink, the whole communication system breaks down.
Absolutely.
And the people that need the help don't get the help. Were there ever any incidents where you, not necessarily yourself, but somebody else on a squad, or your squad maybe, kind of experienced something traumatic and had a real difficult time adapting to what happened, and then getting beyond the incident, and because of the times, we didn't have the resources to help that person?
Yes, a couple people pop into my mind right
Okay.
now. But, I think what we probably as an organization, or most law enforcement agencies, are not as good at doing is identifying the symptoms that relate to some of those signs of PTSD. And we know now that there are physical manifestations of those stressors. So there's some people that you look at and you're like, oh, come on, get over it. You're always hurt. You've got this wrong with you. They always seem to be on light duty, and you're like, what's up with them? Or the fact that they may be forgetful and some of their reporting is maybe less detailed than it should be, which is also a symptom. They're not intentionally plagiarizing a report. Their mind is not able to recall and process things as it should, because of this overlying theme of them having post-traumatic stress disorder or other things that have led to that.
Right.
Those signs and those symptoms. So absolutely. I mean, I'm sure any organization now can point to maybe some behaviors and question why those people are acting that way. But are we asking people what's up? Are they okay?
Yes, that's so important. And when you mention something as not necessarily simple, but something tangible, where someone is unable to write a full detailed report, that I just think about how the mind is injured, and you can't write because your mind is injured, and no one is able to identify that your mind is injured, and therefore we neglect the fact that you need, for lack of better words, first aid.
Yes, and sometimes the first we see of something like that is maybe a court process and somebody doesn't recall and then their integrity is questioned.
Correct.
And we take it this whole disciplinary angle where we're like, oh, this person's a liar. We don't want him here. But really, have we looked deeper? Have we looked deeper and asked those questions?
Now, how do we, are we even there right now? I mean, like, are supervisors being taught how to identify the signs and symptoms of, these kind of issues?
I think some places have the resources in place. And, the one thing San Diego PD did so well was implement that wellness unit so long ago with Sarah Creighton.
Right.
And though they had their growing pains, they got to a point where they were a trusted unit of people, the right people that could have conversations with others. And even as of now, what I've learned, their resource in Institute, one of their resources that they use for PTSD, people present with PTSD or identify with a need, they can get somebody in an outpatient program within 24 to 48 hours. And that statistically shows you that they're going to get positive results if they're getting help right away. But they recognize it's that holistic approach to wellness that they hit all these other domains that bring them back to a point where, we know, like I mentioned, the physical ailments that may manifest with people. Well, if you're working on all these other things, the likelihood of those things sticking around or keeping you out of work are going to minimize.
They should minimize.
They should minimize.
They should minimize.
If you're treating what's really injured, right?
Correct. If you do it right, the correct diagnosis.
Yes.
Yes. So, this Joyce Dudley wellness project that you worked on, can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
So it happened that Post had some extra money a few years back and recognized that they wanted to enhance wellness. And it was a one-time seed of $5 million at the time. Okay. And they contracted with UC San Diego down here, UC San Diego Health in particular, and let them create an initiative that rolled out to 60 police agencies in the state. So through that, it was focused on helping agencies create an organizational culture, if you will. We worked on agency wellness planning, identifying needs, and again, because it was focused on more a holistic approach, I call it was more focused on promoting health.
Yes.
Wasn't on, every agency needs the crisis response resources. This was a different angle that most agencies haven't focused on. It was more on what's going to make us whole as individuals.
Sure.
And what can the agency do to bring those resources forward? So statistically speaking, you look, and scientifically speaking, I should say, you look, we know sleep is one of those domains, nutrition, movement, mindfulness, purpose, knowing your purpose, why we're doing this, and then that connectivity, connection, community, all those things that make us the most well person as possible.
When you mention all these things, I'm thinking, and I don't want to get technical, but I'm thinking about the autonomic nervous system, where we have the fight or flight syndrome, and we have unfortunately, we don't have a balance as cops.
Right.
So, what you're describing is the recovery phase, the parasympathetic system. And we're not sleeping.
No.
We're not resting. Our nutrition is horrible.
Right.
How do we balance that?
So this is where I pretty much sucked through my career. As an athlete, I was like, I could work out and take care of it. I was fitting in my uniform, the same size when I retired as, when I went through the academy.
Right.
So, for me, for so long, that meant wellness. But I did CrossFit for 15 years and adopted a paleo diet that threw my body off because it wasn't balanced. It was too high in those omega-6s. I ended up with thyroid cancer, found out I had an autoimmune disease. And those are all signs of just constant sympathetic nervous system strain. I didn't have a balance of a mindfulness practice. Really didn't know what that means. And to tell you the truth, that basically can be breathing exercises that just bring your heart rate down. And I never worried about that before. So much of that is just, I think, about an education. You don't need to spend a lot of time training people on all these other disciplines, but if you give them the tools that they can practice on their own, and we recognize a week has 168 hours. Technically, they're with us, we know, for 40 hours a week. That's another 128 hours that I, as a chief of police, can't influence your wellness, right?
Right.
But if I can help create the tools and the practices that help you get there, then we're one step farther along. And it could be as easy as through this, I know I'm getting off track, but through this initiative, through POST, we gave these agencies tools. There was a dashboard tool where people could practice all these different things. They got an education in nutrition, they saw videos, movement, mindfulness, and learned different breathing exercises. But they were perfect for sergeants, for example, to throw on in a briefing. Then I learned most agencies don't even have briefings now.
They really?
And this is something larger agencies have the luxury, but a lot of smaller agencies, they don't have the time, and people are just, the staffing's so low.
Wow.
They're on 12-hour days, so they just hit the field. And they get their information over email, so that connection is not there. But taking the time at a briefing just to talk people through mindfulness exercises or breathing exercises will do wonders for helping regulate that parasympathetic nervous system for the moment.
Correct.
And hopefully devise a practice that somebody can take home. But where I realized I was not doing such a good job, so we know it's fight or flight versus rest and digest, right?
Correct.
When we eat on the go, and we know in a patrol car, we're eating when we can.
Right.
Scarfing it down. We probably do that with our families too. But our systems are not digesting, and that's why the autoimmune issues present, because your gut motility is slower. It gives your body more time for antigens and toxins to absorb through your gut. People with gut issues will tell you there's nothing worse, and that connects to 90% of your serotonin comes from your gut. So the feel-good hormones, so, it ties in. It's that body, mind, and spirit. You can't eliminate one aspect of that if you're talking about trying to be well.
So it has to be a comprehensive, holistic approach.
I believe so, comprehensive, because, people underestimate the value of movement. Our lymphatic systems aren't controlled by any muscle contraction, or I should say the movement is what activates that, and that's what's straining toxins from your system as well. So if you're a detective, you're sitting around, you're eating at your desk, you're not moving. I've seen on my watch biometrically what I'm not burning off when I'm just sitting on my butt all day. That takes a toll, and then again, your nervous system is not activating as it should.
But you mentioned detectives, but I'm thinking also patrol officers. I mean, a lot of times, you know, TV shows they show that we're running after people and doing this and that, and
Right.
that's not the reality of it. The
Right.
reality is you're writing a report somewhere, parked in your car, sitting down, typing, and you're not moving.
Yes.
This profession is very sedentary, and so unless you get out and make it a point to walk around your car, especially during graveyards, um, you're not going to get the movement you need.
Right. And those are some of the things with this initiative we saw agencies implementing. Sergeants were saying, oh, yeah, I had a couple officers meet and we did foot patrol around a park, and they got some Fitbits
Yeah.
as a part of the initiative. So they were having competitions. They recognized, how quickly they could get their steps up and what that meant for calorie burn off and what that was doing to reducing their sympathetic nervous system response as well.
Now, how is sleep connected to this conversation?
Sleep is when your body, again, processes those toxins psychologically, physiologically, and where your body recovers and builds more muscle and whatnot for the next day. You can break it down all day, but your body needs a chance to rebuild itself. And sleep is essential. A lot of people underestimate the value of sleep and think, oh, I can catch it up in the weekends, or I don't need it. It's amazing because the value of the biometric devices shows you how sleep, rest, and recovery all work together and how those impact your heart rate variance, which shows, am I in that fight or flight? Am I in that sympathetic nervous system mode, which is where frankly, all the damage comes. That's what's gasoline sending inflammation through your body mentally, physically, and that's where disease comes in. That's where the cancers thrive. That's where the heart issues are perpetuated.
And first responders, we live in that fight or flight.
We love it. Yeah,
Unfortunately, yes, we do love it.
It's adrenaline. It's crack, right?
Yeah. And we take it home.
Yes.
How do we turn it off when we get home?
I think it's easy if somebody takes a moment, parks their car, and maybe pulls up a mindfulness app or even just one that has breathing exercises. It sounds corny, it sounds super simple, but they just take a moment to disconnect. Your family deserves that of you.
Yeah.
And deserves your full attention. A lot of people want to go home. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. I need some time to recharge. But what you don't recognize is they can't wait. And you can't wait. So your body's likely not going to come down on its own. Oftentimes people will sit in front of the TV. You might be watching action movies to lose yourself in,
right,
which is still fueling some of that.
You are.
Yeah. And again, you're eating probably a meal that's not healthy and your body's not digesting it properly because it's not ready to eat. So that's probably the simplest, easiest thing you can do, or take a moment and, have a nice walk around your neighborhood before you go into your house, or go grab your family and make sure you all do it.
That would be ideal.
Absolutely.
That would be ideal.
Lets you connect at that point. It gets the kids some exercise, which they probably need.
Right. That would be ideal.
Grab the dog.
The dog needs it.
That makes you feel good.
Now, when you get to Santa Barbara, how does the wellness program look there when you arrive?
Pretty non-existent.
Okay.
It was an eye-opener for me. I came to an organization that had a chief that was there 16 years before I got there.
Okay.
Definitely a authoritative leadership style from that agency, and pretty much stuck in the suck it up culture. However, in saying that, there was a very active police foundation that was supported by the community that raised funds from some very wealthy, known, famous people in Santa Barbara that was there to help. And that was part of their mission. They wanted to give to the agency, and they were the ones that were funding any desire for psychological services.
Great.
Absolutely.
So you get there and you hear about this, and what do you do?
So I fully supported the foundation's efforts. They had galas every year. One year, they raised $2 million for
Wow.
4 police and fire departments in the community. So I recognized that was huge.
Yeah.
But I knew that they were there to support us and what we wanted to do. So with it being a smaller agency up there, it was hard to get people away from current responsibilities. So I was able to identify a couple of people for our wellness unit. It was an additional responsibility, but it was a matter of identifying people, and the right people, meaning those that were respected, that can connect with officers, that could take the lead and help bridge the gap where I was not quite as trusted yet, being especially following a different leadership style. I was coming in with a different vision and had to get people ready for that.
Right.
So it was a 2017. I got there in 2016. 2017 is when I was able to identify some of those personnel. And then we moved forward, and I definitely recognize I probably moved too fast in a couple directions that they were not ready for. One was mindfulness. Jumped in. I had a community member that was willing to teach some classes for free. I had the foundation that was really ready to fund some of that, but some officers were not ready for that, and my effort got undermined a little.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, as cops, we resist change.
Absolutely. But, looking at it now, that same foundation up in Santa Barbara raised over $100,000 this last year it's earmarked specifically for mindfulness practices. So 4 years later, 5, 6 years later, it's a different story. And seeds were planted, but now it's accepted.
Correct. Change is slow, but it's happened.
It happened.
It happened. Now, I heard a story, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I want you to share it with all of us, if it's true. There was some resistance with something else when you got there. Vending machines.
Okay, so vending machine. We can admit there's really no nutritional value of anything in a vending machine.
Correct.
We had 2 of them, and I found this local vendor. It was a woman who is a holistic nutritionist and chef, and she started Healthy Warrior Meals.
Okay.
She got her veggies and items from the local farmers market every week, and she came in and met with me and wanted to roll it out to the agency. And it was, of course, a cost if officers wanted to buy it.
Okay.
And I thought it was great. She had a nutritionist on her staff, so people could sit down if they want to focus on macros or losing weight. She could put a meal plan together for them, and twice a week she would deliver homemade, locally sourced, healthy meals.
Nice.
Which, it's all great, right? Who would have a problem with that? So we had limited room in the break room. It was about as big as the room we're in now, and we needed electrical outlets. There was 2 vending machines there, so I make the decision, you know what, we're going to get rid of these, and this one, at least it says healthy snacks on it. We'll keep that one, and this one we'll plan on moving out because we need to bring in a big freezer so she can bring these fresh meals and we could store them here. And she also had a self-service. If people wanted to buy them, they could Venmo her. And, she could, like detectives in the middle of the night, there's, pizza or donuts and these meals in the refrigerator, which were healthy. So sounded great to me.
Let me stop you for a second.
Yeah.
What was in the other vending machines that were leaving?
The one that we're leaving?
That we're gonna leave the room.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The ding dongs, the chips. So one of my officers was very upset to hear that his little ding dongs were going to be leaving, and had a talk with one of the union members who, approached me that said, we're going to have problems if we lose that. And I was like, are you kidding me? So my solution, and I was actually kind of happy that I came up with this, is to put it in the lobby at our front counter.
Okay.
If you think about it, vendors are going to be happy because they're going to have more people buying the junk food,
Sure.
the people that come in. But
Right.
then if officers wanted those ding-dongs, that meant they had to walk through the lobby at the front counter that's typically full and waiting
Right.
to get their ding-dongs. And you know what it's like. How many questions do you have to answer if you're at the front counter?
Right.
Luckily, we have people that do that for us. But it was, we found a solution, but it was an eye-opener as well. It's, my perspective on health and imposing that had to be within limits.
You didn't anticipate that kind of pushback.
No, who would argue over these healthy meals coming to the department?
I mean, not everybody's built the same because, like, you explain it to me, and I'm like, I'm on board.
Right,
I mean, I food prep every single day,
right.
and I always have a meal nearby somewhere. But that's me, and I realize not everybody's like that.
And to know what is in the things that are in those vending machines, there's a reason you can eat them 5 years down the road, right?
Right.
There's nothing real. So it worked out, and they're still using that meal service up in Santa Barbara now. She's super successful. She's moved on to other police and fire agencies and expanded, got her own brick and mortar, and she's doing super well.
Worked out for everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially the cops.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, whether she's doing well financially, whatever, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is that the first responders are living a healthier life. And
they were given the tools to do that. Again, they had to choose
correct.
that
Yes.
path. But yeah, a lot of them started taking the meals home. So again, it solved the problem of who's going to cook, but they brought healthy meals and everybody got to enjoy them.
Everybody was happy.
Yes.
Yeah, which is great. What are some other important strategies to help first responders, like on and off duty, when it comes to wellness?
I think, again, the sleep is so important, and that is often inhibited by coffee and stimulants, monster drinks.
Ooh.
So, making sure you stop, only have a cup of coffee when you're waking up if you're going to have it, some sort of stimulant, and, stop some people are sensitive up to 12 hours after that cup of coffee. So recognizing that is one simple little practice you can put in place to help strengthen your sleep. And for me, it's touching all those domains. Like, what can we do to affect the whole by creating these little behaviors? So food-wise, I went through an incredible program through UC San Diego. It was a holistic nutrition 2-year certification program. And it's just very simply eating as much whole foods as you can that are locally sourced, organic. But as you said, you meal prepping, and you're not going to get that in restaurants. There's so many hidden things that are going to impact your inflammation, from seed oils, and now microplastics are getting a lot of attention from the containers that people use, or cutting boards, all those things. I think really that's why cancer is at a rate that it is, because of all those harmful things that we don't tend to.
Right. Where does fitness come into all this whole thing?
For me, that's a core value for sure. And I'm always one that tells people, get it first thing. We know with the hours that we keep and how things break loose in
Yeah.
the work environment, that you can't count on having the energy and having the time to get a workout in after work. But, workout doesn't mean what it used to me. When I was really into CrossFit, I recognized, again, by tracking my biometrics, even walking my dog. So my dog likes to make me run, walk, which is pretty good. But I was yesterday for 40 minutes in like a zone 4 for 30 minutes of our workout for me, which is over 140 some odd beats per minute. So I'm getting a good workout just walking my dog. So it doesn't have to be elaborate. However, I recognize, after 30, we're going to lose up to 5%, 2% of our strength every year, our muscle.
Oh, yes.
So if you're not lifting weights, if you're not doing push-ups and calisthenics, you're going to get to a point where you're not going to be able to pick yourself up off the toilet when you're 60 years old. I hate to say it,
Right.
but it goes quick. And if you're not taking care of that fitness from a cardiovascular level and a strengthening level, it's going to put you in a position where you're less mobile, and it just is, again, going to spiral you down this path of unhealthiness.
Well, and you got to have a good understanding of what you just mentioned. Doing cardio is going to keep your heart pumping,
Yes.
right? So your circulatory system should be okay. Lifting weights is what's going to get you to be stronger so that you can get up off the toilet on your own.
Yes.
And so there's two components. You can't have one or the other.
Right.
Or none.
Right.
So, how do we get young cops to understand that, to actually, get educated and make sure that they plan for the future? In 30 years, they can still do the things they're doing when they're in the academy.
Yeah. Again, I think it's that culture you create. And I'm happy to see more and more agencies are creating the opportunity for people to work out on duty.
Yes.
Which is, I know it's a challenge at larger agencies because it's time, it's hours, but there's more and more of that. So culturally speaking, we're seeing the opportunity there. And I don't think you can force somebody to work out hard. So again,
Sure.
it's our academy is a starting point. What can we do to keep it moving? And I, probably like you, as a supervisor and a manager in different positions, tried to do my best to encourage people to work out with me, to move, to be that role model and model the way that they need to be able to say, hey, yeah, here I am at age 60. I did 11 pull-ups on my birthday a month ago, dead hang, legit.
Right.
I still got it. Well, within reason, but age really is just a number in a lot of ways. And now I'm at this point where I can actually enjoy my retirement.
Right.
And why not thrive in that and do everything I want to do instead of be limited because I have a friend who's got a messed up foot. She's 60 pounds overweight. She's got some neurological issues right now. She's a few years older than me, but somebody that did a 33-year career. And at this point, can you bring yourself back? And I know she's really struggling with that.
Yeah.
So it's really sad to say, and we all give so much for the community, for those we serve. It's that philosophy of how do we serve ourselves? And we have to make ourselves a priority for ourselves and our families.
We have to. And, we just talked about physical and mental injuries. What about emotional injuries?
I mean, those are there present. People are carrying them around. Now, sadly, management and leadership is, throwing gasoline on some of those wounds too, which is sad to see. And a lot of that comes, I think, from a place of not understanding why people are doing in the politics of our profession and funding and all sorts of things, but it's all there. They're present realities for all of us, and again, you lean into that body, mind, and spirit holistic approach. All of it can be mitigated by focusing on some sort of mental practice of mindfulness and follow it up with some physical activity and making sure you get your sleep and hydrate.
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 You know, there's also one of the concerns I hear about is in the academy is like use of force. And I feel like there's a connection to wellness because if you have so much anxiety about your lack of experience with defensive tactics and you're concerned about, being judged with your use of force, anxiety is keeping you in that fight or flight.
Yep.
I mean, anxiety leads to depression. I mean, I think they're sisters. And, it's unhealthy for us not to get well. And so in a good wellness program, what kind of, how do we address that concern with defensive tactics?
So again, I think that's a fear response, right? A fear that you're being judged, a fear that you're going to do wrong, and that's stimulating that sympathetic nervous system, like you said, fight or flight. So what's going to create space and time for your mind to process things? And I know all sorts of training that San Diego PD has done, it's, okay, recognize the more space and time you can give yourself to make a decision, usually the better the decision is. Right. So there were some practices, or I should say a study with heart math, I think the agency did, where it was literally adopting a mindful practice and people basically bringing themselves down before they got out of a call to go engaged with a very heated argument or situation, and finding that there are documented studies that the results are more positive when that is in place. So again, I think, how are we going to build the confidence up of our recruits and trainees? It's, we got to give them the tools across the board, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. And sadly, as we know, a lot of people lose their motivation for maybe staying physically fit, not recognizing that it's up to them to ensure that they're strong enough to handle a lot of the physical tasks. But it's the same for the mental and the emotional. It's easy to get sedentary and lose our focus and just kind of go with the flow.
It's absolutely easy. I don't know if you've been to Police Plaza lately.
I've been a couple of times.
Have you seen their gym as of late?
I haven't. I've promised Kelly I'm going to get in there for a kettlebell workout.
Oh, for the kettlebells. Yeah. Kelly's, he's the one that's doing the kettlebells.
Yes.
Yeah. They've built it up, and it looks pretty good. And I've been in there a couple of times helping people with striking. Mm-hmm. So I met them. But one thing I've noticed that I really was happy about is that there were people in there that you probably would never regularly see at a gym, mm-hmm. and that are not in top shape, not even close, but they're in there because I don't know if it's a safe place, or they've created a place where people, it's just cops and they're welcome. And mm-hmm. you can come in and just be yourself, and nobody's going to judge you. And it was really nice to see.
Oh, that's great to hear. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it too, not being judged and being with your own, that community aspect that we were talking about.
Right.
I'm a director on the World Police and Fire Games board and an associate director for the United States Police and Fire Championships. And just to make you feel better, some of our growing sports are the jiu-jitsu,
wow.
as you can imagine. a lot of younger officers have an interest, which is great, and more agencies are supporting the training. So therefore, more people are wanting to compete,
That's great.
which is a great thing.
Absolutely. Do they have boxing?
They do.
And I thought they did. Yeah, I thought they did. Now, you know what, Chief? If you were to have unlimited budget and you were to create your own wellness program in a new department that was very receptive to you, 100% receptive, what would be the components of that wellness program? What would it look like?
Oh my gosh, here's my dream agency. So, I was playing with the idea of being the one that wins the Powerball, and I was like, one of the things I do would build that one-stop shop public safety wellness facility. And it would be, if I was a chief with that unlimited budget, it would be, okay, everybody shows up for work, we're PTing right away. We're going to follow up that PT, and it's going to be structured, and you're going to do it. Dang it. There's we'll adapt. If you're injured, we'll find another exercise, some functional movement of some sort. We'll follow that up with a mindfulness exercise, and then we're going to have a nice meal together. And we're going to build that camaraderie. We'll center that on a focus for the day, kind of have our team briefing as we wrapped up the meal and, remind each other why we do this and who we're doing it for and how appreciated we are by the majority of the community out there. And let's roll out and support ourselves. One another, supporting, uplifting one another. And, it's basically having that time to enforce it.
Having the time.
And then, give them a lunch, give them a little, make their little lunch bags, healthy meals. Like, here you go, here's your lunch. So if
food
you don't
prep for them.
Absolutely. If I could do that.
Let me know when you get that going. I might come out of retirement for that one.
Okay. Well, I got to win the Powerball. It's another chance on Saturday.
All right.
But, and that one-stop shop. So we have a family justice center here in San Diego, and that concept rolls out to me, in my mind, for wellness. It's like you have to have an intake process and recognize not everybody's at the same place.
Right.
So what is it they need? And then you get them what they need. And some may need some intervention, some psychological counseling. But you offer them to it as a normal practice. We all might go to these different rooms not knowing where people are going, but, we roll out as a team and do different things. And then we come together and do some of these other things, working out together. We eat together. So
We got to meet people where they're at.
absolutely.
That's so important. And I think that if we have that mindset, the role of the supervisor is even more important.
Huge.
But it comes from the top. And that's why, I wanted you here because, we have a chief that's telling us, her experience and what a good wellness program can do for you, especially with your background working with post. And what do you think the future of wellness is going in law enforcement?
So I have been a part of a few different initiatives. I know there's the Valor program, the Safe Leo program that are offered through the Bureau of Justice that gives some free training. So, the recognition that there's a need. Those are government-supported resources. Right now, Post is suffering some of the shortfall that the state is seeing, and they can't expand on wellness. So, but the thing I've recognized, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, is there's no argument that it's needed and necessary. So it's a matter of how do we get there? And more leaders, they know it, but they're dealing with big challenges of staffing, funding. How do we do it? But then again, you look at some of the things like San Diego PD does on a yearly basis. They've got personnel assigned, but they don't have an operating budget for the wellness unit. So, there's so much you can do. Doesn't have to be formalized, but just start integrating the practices and philosophies. It's like problem solving back in the day in the 90s where,
Sure.
a lot of agencies would stand up. We've got a POP unit. We've got this team that's going to work on problem solving. Well, it's not a matter of that team doing the job. It's every ounce of your organization is believing this and practicing it. So it's those little things and those little seeds along the way that can make a difference overall.
I hear you. Those little seeds that will make a difference. And I believe that they will make a difference. Because I want to bring something up. What's your opinion? I mean, we have seen or experienced suicide with some of our coworkers. And, if we address these little things, maybe, I don't know, but maybe, we can reach someone before they get to that point. And suicide is a big deal, as you know, in law enforcement. What are your thoughts on, how is it that wellness can actually maybe somehow address some of the issues that we're going through?
So I left Santa Barbara PD in 2021, and that last year, I had 3 officers self-report that they were not well from a psychological standpoint. That didn't happen before. It never happened. They came forward. We got 2 back to work. They got the services they needed, and it was all PTSD related in different instances. And one was a prior military gentleman that was pretty new that we hired, and he recognized he was not ready for the profession, and he did not come back to work. So, it's creating that help-seeking culture, I think, is one of the first things that can help start the process. But it was explained to me by somebody I did some work with who is with this other organization as a contractor, and she had a story of wanting to die by suicide. And she was a police officer, and she was injured in the line of duty and involved in a shooting. And her response for being in that situation was she just wanted the pain to stop. That was what her focus was. That was why she got to the point where she attempted suicide. So it makes me think, that people are suffering. It's those little conversations that we have along the way that, it's courageous for me as an individual to walk up and really ask somebody that you think is not doing well how they're doing, and to spend the time to really listen and try to direct them to resources if they need it. And I have another quick story. Santa Barbara, one of my supervisors at the time, a captain of mine told me, "Oh, have you seen that sergeant down there? He just doesn't look well." And and I asked, I said, "Did you ask him what's going on?" "Well, I didn't feel comfortable." I'm like, "Where the heck is he?" And they last saw him in the break room. And I went down, I said, "Hi," he didn't answer me. It took him 3 times to answer me.
Wow.
And I'm like, "What is going on?" And there was a big lawsuit with stuff that happened before I ever got there. And this person was drawn into it, and it brought up some past trauma. And he was not well. And I shared that there was a resource that I knew about that helped me with something. And it was a resiliency program. And it was a woman in the community up in Santa Barbara that wanted to offer it. And I said, "Well, as a chief, I can't put it out there and tell people that they should come see you, but I will have it here as a resource if I can vet it." And so she took me through her resiliency training. And I shared that experience with that sergeant. And I didn't do it to say, "You need to do this." I said, "You know what?" I said, "Sometimes it's, what we're feeling isn't really about what we think it is." And I shared my interaction with this program. And he said, you know what? If that was available to me, I would do it. I said, you know what? I'm going to call her up. I'll make sure you get taken care of. And I mean, it was like, it went back to some childhood stuff.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was recognizing that that's where we all have
baggage.
childhood incidents
Yes.
that add to this, and we don't know who we're getting at the agency. But this sergeant, a couple weeks back, came back. He was telling everybody about this. He was the best billboard, and I recognize the value of a respected peer in sharing that kind of information. And I know he got 2 other people to go, but I still have the text on my phone. Here I am 4 years later. He texted me and he said, I just wanted to say thank you. He said, I was walking on the beach. Look at it, it's making me teary-eyed. Walking on the beach with my wife for 3 hours, and she goes, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what do you mean? Because you haven't MF'd and cussed and talked crap about the department in 3 hours. And he's like, thank you for that. And he recognized that it wasn't the department, it was all this past stuff. Right. So we don't know what we're going to get with our people, but had I not gone down and tried to connect with him, then I also learned that my captain wasn't comfortable and skilled in that conversation, and that was some of her baggage.
Right.
You know, in some past history. So it basically cracked up that, you know, you got to find a way to get there. You got to find a way to have those conversations, and they're never easy. I've got a couple text messages that I've saved, one from a former detective who's no longer with us because he died by suicide. And we had a text exchange about a month before he passed away, and I knew there was something bad going on in his life. But, you know, I think back, you know, could I have done more? Now, if I picked up the phone and not just texted him, could I have realized it was worse than what it was? Because, you know, he left me thinking, he was talking about all these fun memories when we worked together and things that made him laugh, and told me how upset he was, but he's like, I'll get through it. He didn't. So, you know, it's such a tough subject to even try to put a finger on, you know, what's going to work. And I think just the reality is we have people walking around us hurting and not talking about it. And there are resources there. So whatever we can do to help try to identify maybe more of what they need and help support them to get those resources, that, you know, maybe we can make a difference.
Well, you definitely made a difference. And, you know, I mean, in the stories that you shared, but I think it's so important that as leaders, we set the example so that people that are our subordinates can also learn from us and maybe, you know, be open to identifying things, having conversations
Right.
with people, the uncomfortable conversations, addressing behavior. Because, you know, you mentioned a lawsuit. Sometimes I look at some of these lawsuits or some of these issues, and they could have been taken care of early on, and there wouldn't be so much animosity, and there wouldn't be so many people that are depressed and you know, affected by the behaviors that occurred. And then some people, you know, it can result in suicide later on in life. And I think it's just the importance of leadership is just something that sometimes we take for granted as supervisors. But, you know, in your story that you shared, you know, sometimes we have people that have experience. And experience is sometimes wasted on people that were older.
Mm-hmm.
And the youth is wasted on the young people. So the young people don't know what they don't know, so they
Right.
can't lead. So, but it's on us to teach. And so I thank you for being here and sharing your stories.
Thanks. And I think it comes down to being authentic and feeling that it's okay to have a heart and lead from that position. because, we got each other.
That's right. That's right. Anything else, Chief, that you would love to for people to know about wellness and just a career in law enforcement? What advice would you give your younger self right now if you were in the academy or about to start the academy? What advice would you give yourself?
I came into this profession not knowing really what I wanted to do with my life. Being that athlete, recognizing that my athletic skills were probably going to do me well in the academy. I had a twin sister that was going through her police academy for the Department of Fish and Game. So, it sounded cool. And I figured the worst thing that could happen was that I was a cop if I left it not being a good fit. But after the first week, I never looked back, and it was a complete fit for me as an athlete. And I think most people that are athletes would say it fits perfectly well with them too. It aligns with all those skills. But I recognize that, there are opportunities for a full career. And I came in with a plan of some of the things I wanted to do. And a lot of that was experience different things and move up the chain of command because I didn't want people in my way. I wanted to make more decisions.
Right.
But I underestimated what that ambition and the drive did to me. At 46, I had thyroid cancer. And then, for a good 10 years, I suffered autoimmune disease. I had heart surgery 18 months ago. And as I told you, 10 days ago, I was in the hospital with another procedure because my heart rate was out of control. So it came with a cost. And so it's finding that balance. I think I would have told myself to just, let some of it come to me and recognize that I don't have to push so hard and that I should take some more time smelling the roses and walking on the beach and bringing myself down from that sympathetic nervous system. But I didn't know enough about that at the time.
Right.
It was just go, go, go. So I have no regrets. I mean, it was a great career, super fulfilling. Everybody said it's going to go by quick. It went by too quick. I miss it. I miss working with teams and, fighting a cause and trying to make a difference. But being able to do things like this and share that wisdom that we both gained through all that time, and hopefully it's a little tidbit for someone to hopefully better their career and make sure they stay healthy as they do it.
Last thing, Chief. What's next for you?
What's next? Wow. I don't know. It depends if I win the Powerball or not. But so I'm at this contract with Post and UC San Diego Health just ended in June. I've been working on getting myself back after my procedure physically, and might have an opportunity to invest in a gym locally. So
Okay.
I do love nutrition and helping people and physical fitness. So, there's a side that wants to maybe just keep it simple in my backyard and work with people to make a difference because, it's easy for people to take one step to see a big result in a month,
Right.
one step at a time, and can change their lives. And athletics have been so good to me. And I think I've learned so much that can't be bottled up and kept inside on my own. So we'll see. So right now it's a transition. I know coming out of retirement, I filled up my calendar with a bunch of busy stuff, really not knowing where my passion was. And I'm recognizing it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to, be elevated at a point that has a huge impact on an
Right.
organization. It can just be one person at a time, and that's what makes me feel good.
It's all about making sure that it makes you feel good.
Yes, and then I'm going to get more pull-ups on my birthday next year than I had this year.
At least one more.
Absolutely,
At
at
least
least
one more.
At least one.
And every year after that, one more.
Yes.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you for being here, Chief. I really appreciate you. It's great to see you.
Great to see
Great
you.
to see that you're still in great shape, doing 11
Trying.
pull-ups. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You got an opportunity to meet another amazing guest, retired Chief Lori Luhnow. And thank you for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you.